Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Alan Bradley retired as captain of his local fire department in Kansas City right after COVID. That's when he decided to take up writing. His first book is entitled Mistletoe Love. I got to tell you, Alan, this sounds like something right out of Hallmark.
I sat down one day and I was looking at some movies, Hallmark cards and all of them. And I said, well, somebody need to write about this. And, I looked around, I didn't see nobody write about it. They may say mistletoe, but they never wrote about the mistletoe. Because I based my book off of what I seen and what people I meet, people I talk to. And that's how I came up with it. Little stories here and there.
Tell me your story.
Well, it's all about me growing up, kind of like being on my own a little bit. Grew up in Kansas City. I'm kind of like the boy in the story. Didn't socialize too much with people. I worked, had after school jobs and stuff like that. I'm a very sociable person, but I had to work.
How old are we talking here?
Oh, I was 14 when I started working.
What'd you do?
Matter of fact, one of my first major jobs was Denny's. I threw the paper, but that's not a major job. Every kid throws paper.
Right.
But I worked at Texas Tom's, this restaurant. Then I moved up to be a manager in Texas Tom's. Then I worked in another restaurant. Restaurant was, easy work to get when you're young because you can be a bus boy, you can wash dishes, you can do all kind of stuff when you're young.
Well, what does the boy in your book do?
He goes around taking laundry to his, just doing odd jobs for his mom.
How old is he?
He's 13.
What's his name?
In the book is Joseph.
Okay.
This girl sits in front of him in school. She was kind of rich. Joseph and their family wasn't rich, but they made do because his mom had two jobs. So he had to get home after work, after school, to make sure his mom can go to work at her other job. So, he did things for his mom, like she washed clothes, so he delivered the clothes. He delivered clothes and stuff to some of her customers. They tip them or whatever they do. But that's how he made little part-time money, selling pop bottles and stuff back like that. The girl in front of him, sat in front of him, she was kind of like a richy girl. And her dad and them told them that they was leaving to move to California. And she got upset. And her best friend told her, well, good, go. Get out the cold weather. And she said nobody cared. She didn't think nobody cared, but Joseph heard that. So that's how the mistletoe comes into play, because he heard that, during after winter break. Then she told him, every weekend he went by her house and took her and did something just to show that somebody did care for her. Because, he kind of like had a crush on her anyway. So he showed her that he cared for her by taking her to the movies, to bowling. Every weekend they did something different, skating, until it was time for her to leave, because she had to leave the day after Christmas. She had to leave the day after Christmas. So her last day there, they went into a bookstore and they found this magic book. It was explaining what the mistletoe love was. And, and by that time, he fell in love with the little girl. And it said, if you kiss a girl up under the mistletoe, if you kiss someone up under the mistletoe before and say, I love you, you will love that person. So they did. They thought it was going to keep them together, but it didn't. Their family moved away and they got separated for 17 years. But when she came back to town, it kind of like rekindled the spirit.
Well, 17 years later, they're both, what, 30?
Yeah, they were about 28, 30, yeah.
And they hadn't married anybody else?
Nope. she never said that she loved nobody because she's a lawyer. She 17 years. While she went to school, she ended up being a lawyer, trying to make partner. It took up most of her time. He was just one of them kids that just got lucky. He bought a lottery ticket and he hit the lottery when he graduated from college. So, but he didn't get all the money. He got some of the money, but the money that he got, he invested into a shelter, not a homeless shelter, but a community shelter, because he knew when he was growing up, he wished he had something that he could have went to, for help. Pantries, like food pantries and stuff like that.
Right.
Because his mom was struggling, and they struggled when he was little. So that's why he came up with the food. He wanted to have something like that. So he took his lottery money and bought a business to help. But his business was failing because the lottery, they only gave him part of the lottery money, and most of it was tied up in legal stuff. And he didn't know how to receive his money back. And that's how he ended up seeing Maria again, because she ended up seeing that her law firm wanted to buy his building, and he didn't know it. And they got together, and it's, the book is real cute, real nice. It's not that long of a book. It's something that can get you, and you can read it in a day.
It's so sweet. It sounds real.
Yes.
Is any of this real?
Yes, some of it, parts.
Did they get married and live happily ever after?
Yes, they did. They did get married. They had 2 kids, Nicole and Little Joe, Joseph Jr., but they call him Little Joe. That's the lost page, because remember the mistletoe love? It was about this page in this magic book, and nobody knew where this magic book was. And that's how the lost page came to play into the mistletoe love. It's a book that once you get going, you be like, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah. Have you had any luck getting traction on this? It's a sweet story.
I did a book signing here. I did buy like maybe 50 books. It's, some people have been buying it on Amazon because it's on Amazon.
Right.
I need to do more, but it's very, the people who read it and told me they read it, they liked the storyline. They liked how quick it was, and they didn't put the book down after they got it. It's a real nice book.
Are you going to keep writing?
Yes. I got another book in the works right now.
Okay.
I'm writing a book called They Know Your Heart. It's about a young lady who has multiple myeloma, leukemia. She found out too late before she could do anything about it, and she has a year to live.
Oh boy.
But she believed in the faith of the Lord so much, that she was all right with it. She accepted her outcome when she found out. Didn't complain about it not once. It's going to be a good book too when I get through with it.
I believe you. Alan Bradley.
All right then.
All right. Author of Mistletoe Love. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Okay then, thank you.
Doughlas M. Matoke is going to school to become a cardiologist. And about 2 years ago, he got an idea for a book and student study guide based on his experience in trying to achieve his goals with integrity and compassion. The name of his book, You Must Carve Your Path.
So the book, You Must Carve Your Path, is a coming of age novel that follows a character that I call Onesimus, and Onesimus is a purposeful name because Onesimus really means someone who is useful, someone who has a purpose, someone who can become positive in society. So it's following this character named Onesimus, who is a young man, navigating injustice, power, identity, and moral choice. And now through personal struggle and the community conflict and some political awakening, the story now explores how individuals, as I said earlier, can shape their destinies amid social pressure, corruption, and inequalities. So at the heart of the book, it's about resilience, integrity, and the courage that it takes to claim one's own path in a complex world.
What happens to him in the book?
So the book, as it starts, have it down on the blurb. It's something is happening in the marketplace. So it's a commotion, and he goes to find out what's going on. He finds it's his cousin who is entangled in some conflict, and he gets into the mix to help out, but then he's mistakenly taken to be the person who is involved and who has caused now the death of this young lady in the market. And now the mob is just gathering and they're coming for him and his cousin. So they have no time to explain what's going on, so they have to run away. So they take off running, and the mob is now upon their heels with all forms of crude weapons, machetes and everything you can think about, in rural Africa. So they're chasing them to lynch them probably for causing the death of this lady. So they run and so they're running. So they get on the run, and that's how the book sets itself. Now, where they run to, they cannot come back because the situation is now hostile back home. So they have to find safety. So the story goes that they decide to go to their uncle's farm, far away from the home. But along the way, before they get there, they meet another character called Mike, who, because it's night now, he decides to host them. And as night progresses, this old man called Mike is watching television, and the news about the death of the lady and what happened in the marketplace now is broadcast. So he sees what's happening, and he sees the two young men that he has helped host for that night being the people who are now being now looked for causing the murder. So from there, the story goes that he's now trying to manipulate these guys now. First he tries to make them help him with some kind of work in the farm where he owns. I mean, he owns a large farm and stuff like that. So while they're helping him do some chores that he wanted done, he comes to find that these guys are very capable men of doing the kind of work he wants. And now he also learns that they can actually help him win back a property that he had lost in some kind of games. It's a long story in between there.
Okay.
So he tells them, if you guys can help me do this, then I'll keep quiet of what's going on, because there's a big price now for whoever is going to say or present these guys and tell the authorities that I know where these people are. So he hides that in return that they help him win back his property. So the story goes like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the end, he becomes an advocate for political reform.
So,
and
yeah.
And he's, using what he's learned. So what's next?
This book, I'm planning that this book, I'm going to try to promote this book to become a set book that can be studied in schools. And to promote a book to become a set book, then you also have to come up with a guide, a study guide. How I don't know how the American system of education does, in set books, but from where I come from, Kenya, if this kind of book is accepted as a set book, then it's going to be introduced in schools. But then they also require that the author, comes up with a study guide.
Oh, okay.
I have already come up with that study guide. It's already, the manuscript is ready, everything is set. The only thing left now is for me to print it. So that's another book now in the making. So I have that going on. And then I also have two other books, different ones now, not related to the one I'm talking about. These are different ones. I've gone through I think one of them I've gone through halfway, and another one I've just started the skeleton, so I'm feeding into it. So probably three projects in the way.
Now, will you be promoting this for use in schools when you go to Kenya?
Yeah, I've actually contacted KICD, that's the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development in Kenya, and I presented the book and the manuscript, though not printed yet. And I'm going there. I will probably meet one of the people there. So that's one of the things we're going to look at. It has a big potential to be accepted as a set book in Kenya.
All right, so as a study guide, what's the takeaway for students?
For example, the book has characters like Onesimus is one of the big characters there. Ben, Mike, Amanda, all this. So a simple question could be to a student is that can you maybe in a paragraph or two explain the main characters, explain the kind of person these characters are. Now the book has all that laid out, so it will tell you, Amanda, these are the characters, or these are the traits. This is what's about Amanda. This is what's there in the book about Onesimus and Ben and everything. Then another question could be, what are the themes in this book? So the person has to talk about resilience, courage, injustice, all these things. So the book now guides the student actually to even understand the book more, because like you said, there is the civic part. There's the civic education part where now the character Onesimus is promoting. So after Onesimus now has seized the opportunity to come to the U.S. and present his artistic work, and it's accepted, he gains financial status. So he goes back home now with the purpose that he's going to educate, especially starting with the youth, what it means to even be a voter, what it means to be actively participate in politics, and why, all those things.
That's great.
Yeah.
You want students to learn from your characters.
Yes.
You're going to be a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm going to. That's what I'm intending. Yeah.
Yeah. Doughlas M. Matoke, author of You Must Carve Your Path. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Speaking of busy guys, A.D. Logan is a Navy boatswain's mate and author of Sinister Things. When do you find time to write?
I try and write at least 5 days a week. So whenever I'm off work, whether I'm tired or not tired, I force myself. I say, just put down 500 words.
How long have you been writing?
I have been writing since 2019 is when I got deep and serious about it. But I'd have to say it all started back in the 5th grade when I was writing stories for my classmates and reading them out loud. And so I found it enjoyable because I would just come up with these random stories. And when we would read our stories aloud, I just loved how my classmates all laughed and my teachers are smiling about it. It brought a great deal of happiness to myself, actually knowing that I created something that brought entertainment to others.
And then you had a big gap till 2019. What happened in 2019?
In 2019, COVID was slowly beginning.
Oh, right.
And I was in Japan at the time. We weren't really able to do much. I started taking the time to do things to improve myself and better myself. We were, with the military, things were, everyone was kind of doing the whole separation and everything, us all having to keep our distance at a certain point.
Yeah.
So it made things a little rough, and us also everybody needing to quarantine in certain locations. I was like, okay, so I'm bored. Let's go and start writing. And then I looked at all these other things. I looked at all these other things I was creating, and one day it just hit me. It's like, when did I stop doing this? I love doing this.
And you loved it so much you decided to publish.
Yes.
So, did you write Sinister Things a while ago?
I did. Sinister Things is actually my second book that I published. My first book was published overseas while I was in Japan.
Okay.
It was my first introduction to it
Mm.
when I was looking for a publishing company, and I was just learning everything from scratch. It was a learning curve. It took me about a year and a half, and then I was going on things like Fiverr and trying to figure out how to get it edited, how to get it proofread, how to get someone else to read it. And I was trying to do all this during COVID because I was like, who do I call? What am I supposed to do? So there was a lot of research and trial and error involved.
How'd you make out with Paige?
Page Publishing, they've been really great about it. I like the book design. I like how the company's been working with me on this. I like the whole setup. And honestly, me being in the military, that's been the biggest hurdle with doing all of this
Right.
because it's just the time management and trying to
Yes.
communicate as best I can.
Right. So that's good. So what's your book about?
My book follows the events of Stain. So it is about Carolyn, who is now Queen of the Night Wisp. She just made reunited with her daughter, with her stepdaughter Hannah. Her father was killed in the previous book. So now she doesn't take long to tell Hannah that her father did in fact die. But now Hannah has to actually readjust to life when it comes to the Night Wisp due to the fact that they originally tried to capture her in book one and tried to harm her. And now that Carolyn is back, her life, Hannah's life slowly starts to take a supernatural shift because she's haunted by her father's ghost. She's also having to deal with the Night Wisp. And then there are other sinister creatures out there that are relative to Carolyn, but not the same. And Hannah's just having to deal with a whole lot more for a young girl. And Carolyn, she's doing everything she can to try and keep her and the Night Wisp, as well as Hannah, protected. And essentially, she's just trying to find a balance, trying to find a new norm to a life that is no longer going to be normal.
Hmm. Now, do we have to read the first book?
You actually don't.
So this is a
You don't.
standalone.
Yes.
What's the name of your first book, just out of curiosity?
It is called Stain.
How did you make out in terms of getting people's attention?
Well, for the first one, I found another company that I reached out to. That's where I learned a lot more about the marketing.
Okay.
And they showed me, okay, here's how distribution works. And so they were getting more attention out there for it. I started slowly getting more calls for it, but I was also working on the second book.
Okay.
And then I guess where things fell off was I ended up going on deployment. So when I went on deployment, there's that period of just
Oh,
no contact, and it kind of hurt that I was like I wasn't able to be as consistent as I would have liked.
okay.
So this time around, I'm trying to make as many moves as possible for Sinister Things before I was like, let's get as much traction for it as possible. Let's like anytime I'm not on deployment, anytime I'm not away. I started looking at other methods, looking at other places to where I can help create ads. I saw what Page Publishing had to offer, and I'm utilizing whatever resources they're giving me to go ahead and sit back and do the marketing. I realized, learning a lesson here, that the consistency is something I have to try and find a balance with, especially with my current career in the military.
Okay. I suspect you're going to keep writing.
I am. I'm already working on book 3, and I have book 4 completely outlined. So that one, I make sure I remain consistent. Book 3 is almost done.
Okay.
So I want to go ahead and get that one ready. And then book 4 is completely outlined. All I have to do is just finish writing everything.
All right. And all of these books are tied together.
Yes.
Do you leave us with a cliffhanger in Sinister Things?
Yes, actually, I do leave you guys with something, but it does bring. I will say that Sinister Things does come to a conclusion as far as Carolyn is concerned,
Okay.
and it does leave you with a cliffhanger for the main antagonist that will be present in all the other books.
Okay, good. A.D. Logan, author of Sinister Things. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Mason A. Grant wrote his first poem in high school, and he's been writing ever since. The name of his book, When I Think About. Mason, what made you decide to publish now?
My wife actually gave me the idea because, like, I had a bunch of them that I had written. Some of them I had shared with other people. She's heard most of them, and she kind of gave me the idea, like, hey, what, these are really good, but they're not going anywhere, just sitting in your book. Why not just, why not just make it into a book and publish it? I was like, I never really thought about it. So I gave it some time. I thought about it. And then eventually I was just like, oh, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? So I ended up, going through with it and publishing it.
Are all of your poems religious based?
Majority of them, yeah.
Okay.
There was a few that I had written in my creative class, and they were like, some were funny, some were good. So I was like, oh, I could add these to the book. So I
you
just
mix them up.
Yeah.
What inspires you?
A lot of them were just like really experiences that I went through, and a lot of them also, like, I would probably say, like, a lot of it comes from dark places, I would say. So then it was just like me sharing a thought process that came to my mind about an experience or something I may have watched or whatever. And the more that I shared them, the more it made me think about, honestly.
Well, can you give me an example of, something that happened that inspired a poem?
I went on a retreat with just a minute of my church. I've never really been on a retreat before.
Mm-hmm.
This was when I was in Florida. We went out to I think it's called Lake Okeechobee, I think it was called. And I guess we had some free time, so I was like kind of walking around, looking around, and like figuring out, okay, what can I do with this little bit of free time that I have? And there was this little area where it was like 2 or 3 hammocks, and then there was like a little area where like they had a cross, like in the dirt, and behind it was the lake. And I remember it being such a magnificent sight. It was absolutely beautiful.
A cross?
Yeah, there was a cross. I guess the way it was set up, the cross was like, it was the hammocks, and then there was like it kind of looked like a setup where, like, if somebody wanted to preach outside, they would be standing in front of the cross, and everybody else would just be like sitting in front of it, and then behind it was the lake. So I remember just sitting there in awe and amazement, and I was in the hammock because I've never been in a hammock before, and it was very comfortable. So I ended up just like I was in the hammock, and I was just like looking at the sight, and I think one of the poems that I wrote came out of just like realizing, like, dang God, if you were able to create something as beautiful and amazing as this lake, imagine what more you could do. And I think that's how one of my poems actually came to life.
It sounds like you've been, fairly religious since you were a young guy.
It didn't really get serious for me until until my 20s, because like the first one I wrote wasn't really, how do I say this? It was very vulgar, it was very raw, but it was also very uncensored.
Okay.
So I guess that's where the birth of me being attached to poetry came from. So then as I got older and as I got experience a lot more, and as I started taking my walk with God more seriously, that's when more of it started to come to life. So like anytime anybody asked me about my like experience about certain things, I would just share it through poetry. And they would feel so connected to it. They would feel connected to the experience and whatever I was talking about, that it made me write more of it.
Did you have a particular religious experience in your 20s?
Actually, yes, kind of. I was in a relationship in my 20s, and it was like one of the most serious relationships I've ever been in, but it was also, I mean, I guess it was also very traumatic the way that the relationship ended up going.
Okay.
So it was towards the end. It was like kind of towards the end of that relationship because I was very heartbroken. I was very confused. I was very like not myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like one of those things you don't want to go through, but it's like you look back and it's like you had to kind of go through it
Mm-hmm.
in order to like discover like a new level, deeper level of understanding about your own personal story and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if it wasn't for that specific relationship, I don't think I would have taken my walk with God so serious.
Are there open mics, places you can go to recite what you've written?
I've honestly been looking for places to start like sharing. There used to be some in Florida, like when I was in my university, they would have like a couple of open mic nights. But other than that, there's not really many places that I've seen in Texas that really have them. And if they do have them, it's like in the middle of the week. It's never like really a weekend.
How do you tell people about your book?
As far as the book on, I would share it on social media. I would post it on all my social media pages, and then I would tell my family members about it. They would spread the word. They would tell the next person, and that person would tell the other person.
Okay.
So like word of mouth, really.
Are you going to keep writing?
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of like coming up with a few ideas for a second book.
Okay. Mason A. Grant, author of When I Think About. It's a book of poetry. Thank you so much for talking to me, Mason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Darin TaDream is a machinist, and he's published 4 books. For My Heart and Mind is his first with Fulton. Darin, that is some pen name.
I have to encourage myself to step out of my comfort zone. So I gave myself a name like Darin TaDream. Yeah.
I love that. When did you start writing?
I started writing back in 1998. My wife was an avid romance reader to the point of ignoring me. So it was like, okay, I have to read. So I started reading some things. And then I got to the point where I would share what she was reading. And there was one romance that had a very bad ending to it. And I opened my mouth and said, well, if the publishing company would publish that one, then they'll publish anybody. And she took that foot that I just put in my mouth and shoved it down my throat until I was gnawing on my kneecap. I didn't like the taste of that, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to back down from this challenge. I read a few more romance novels. I kind of picked up on their formatting and their do's and don'ts, and I wrote my first story, one that proved to her that I could create a story, and then I had the bug, so I just had to write a few more.
So this is For My Heart and Mind, and it's about a former beauty pageant winner. Where did you get the inspiration for this?
The first kernel of inspiration for this book was from a song that I heard back in 1986, performed by a USO performer.
Okay.
named Hambo Latham. He never recorded it, never released it. He only did it live. It was called Fancy Flossie. And it was about an obese belly dancer performing for the circus who had a dream of being a model for the oversized clothing industry. And that song has stuck with me all this time. It sticks with me, especially since I asked my second wife to marry me while we were dancing to Hambo performing Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
Aww.
So Hambo's important in my life. And it was like, okay, now wait a minute. How do I write a romance novel that includes that kind of image or lyrics from that song? And a very pretty girl, very lovely lady, I should say, came to work at the plant where I was working, and all the guys would flock around her and interrupt her from her work. And she was moved from this area to that area to that area. You know? So it was like, okay. And I would talk to her, just friendly. And she says, these guys are always hitting on me. So it said, okay, wait a minute. Let me take the idea of the beauty within from Fancy Flossie and turn it on its head. A very beautiful woman is sick and tired of being beautiful. She is now disenchanted with being beautiful, frustrated by all the attention. And I just started going from there. Who is more beautiful than beauty pageant winners, especially international? That's just an image of ultimate beauty. But in the story, she fails to win the international, and her mother had a psychotic break, abandoned her, left her in a foreign country. And when Candace got back to the States, mom kicked her out, put her on the street without anything, without any money, without her winnings, and just disowned her. So now Candace had to fight from desperation and living on the street to finding someplace that she could work, then finally taking the job as an exotic dancer, which gave her the means to get to college.
But then I'm reading your synopsis. Then she dresses down and disguises herself.
Right.
Because she wants to avoid men. She wants to be taken seriously. She wants people to appreciate her for what's inside of her, not what she looks like.
Right. And the one complication is that her mother had tried to get into the movie industry, and that didn't work out. So her mother was more insistent, treated Candace even more strictly after that incident. So Candace blames the movie industry for how hard her mother was on her. So she truly avoids talent agents. And only problem is the one childhood friend who had a crush on her is in a family that is in the talent industry. So she really wants to avoid him. Well, that she tried, and she was successful until she decided it was time to tell the truth and accept him for what he offers her. Kind of an off-the-wall kind of thing to do, but it turns good.
How are you making out in terms of getting it out there?
I have been to the library, talking with the library for a signing session, or I know my local library has authors in different times in the year.
Okay.
I'm on that list. I've gone to local bookstores. I've used a couple other publicity companies. It is now registered to appear in the London Book Show in March.
Okay.
Plus I'm up on, not very often, I'm not really big about pushing it on social medias myself.
Okay.
But, we're getting stuff done.
Okay.
I've had it done up in audio, so it's up as an audiobook as well.
Okay. Are you going to keep writing?
Oh, yeah. I have two more stories in work, and two past that are outlined.
Well, that's the important thing. Keep writing, right?
Yep. I write for fun. I don't push myself to write. It's a hobby. It's not really a profession.
Okay. Darin TaDream, author of For My Heart and Mind. Thanks so much. Thanks for talking
All
to me.
right. Thank you.